Hey there, readers, writers, and friends. Story Serpent here, and today we are talking about Old School, the latest book from Gordon Korman. It was published earlier this year, 2025, either January or February. I don't remember. I pre ordered it, so it just showed up at my door. It's published by Harper, the middle grade and YA division of HarperCollins. But before we get into all that, today's random words are like, share, subscribe, Octogenarian. So, from the trappings. Guys, I know this might be a hot take. I do not like this cover, and I will tell you why. The blues on the bird here are blending in too much with the background. They don't pop. While the orange does, and that's great, the title and Gordon's name pop off the page, this bird does not. It blends into the cover too much. I don't see it attracting a lot of attention, and I think that means that this cover is not going to do its book justice, especially in terms of sales. I also don't know if you all can see this, but of course the publisher had to sneak a rainbow on the cover. Why? I don't know why. It's never described that way in the book. It's clear and plastic, and while I can understand that a clear plastic pocket protector is not going to be an easy thing to illustrate, they could have made different choices. Underneath the dust jacket, we have this lovely gold embossing, simple blue exterior, and as far as hardbacks go, it's fine. It's got the sewn-in binding, which is great, but nothing super fancy, nothing to write home about. So shall we see what the book has to say for itself? Dexter Foreman is 12, going on 80. He has lived at the Pines Retirement Village with his grandmother since he was 6 years old, and as a result, he gets along better with senior citizens than kids his own age. He's homeschooled by the residents up until the day the county's truancy officer shows up and announces that Dex has to go to the local middle school. At school, Dex sticks out like a sore thumb. He dresses like a grandpa and can be just as cranky. His taste in movies and music is decades out of date. Only a few students, like Gianna Greco, a reporter at the school's newspaper, find him intriguing. For most, he is a weirdo, or a target. Raised among a generation of Mr. Fix-Its, Dex can repair seemingly anything with his trusty Swiss Army knife, which comes in handy since the old school building is falling apart. It also ends up putting Dexter in a situation that could either make or break his school career. Dexter would do anything to return to his old life at the Pines, but when his wish finally seems to be coming true, his old and new worlds collide in a way that surprises everyone, and Dexter most of all. I like the way it sets things up for us. I'm actually really surprised. I didn't remember the Swiss Army knife being in this blurb. It seems like a superfluous detail the first time you read through, but it does end up being pretty significant throughout the book. So that's sneaky, that's clever. I like it. Most of the book is told through Dexter's perspective, but as always with Korman, we do bounce around in between a number of different perspectives. So let's talk about what's working and what's not. Gianna Greco as a character is almost identical in terms of character to the bossy, know-it-all girl boss from the previous Gordon Korman book. If you were to take a snippet of their dialogue, a chunk of their internal thought, put them side by side and ask me who was who, I can't tell you, because they're basically the same character. They are an obnoxious, know-it-all, insufferable girl boss girl who's out to reshape the world and prove how amazing they are. And they do it at the expense of other people, or they do it in ways that are kind of mean, kind of aggressive. Gianna totally betrays Dexter's trust. She lets him believe that this article she's writing about him for the school newspaper, because she just has to be the only 7th grader on the paper who's getting real time and who's going to be able to be, editor next year. All of these things that she wants for herself. She lets Dexter believe that, I won't do the article on you at some point. And then lays it on him the morning the paper is coming out. So it's already being printed. There's nothing he can do. She does not give him a second opportunity to kill it. She does not let him read it beforehand. It's terrible. It's a horrible experience for Dexter. If I were Dexter, I would want nothing to do with her after that. She lied, she betrayed him, she used him for her own aims. She's a bad character and a bad person. And yet, by the end of the book, we're supposed to believe that she's great and that everything is fine. And of course, she should be friends with Dexter because she actually kind of cared about him. Frankly, I think that's nonsense. I don't like the fact that there were zero consequences for Gianna for what she did to Dexter. I do have to say that her brother Ronnie is by far the more intriguing character. He's a bully. He is struggling in school. He has a lot of emotional stuff going on. He really, and he's been held back a grade. So he's got a huge chip on his shoulder and a lot to prove, but he changes quite a bit over the course of the story. He ends up breaking his hand against the side of a bus because he goes to swing at Dexter, and Dexter's been boxing with one of the old dudes at the senior center for however many years now and can just, kid's got moves, like good for Dexter. And while Ronnie could, and does for a while, hold that against Dexter, in the end, he comes around, and he and Dex end up being pretty decent friends. And I love seeing that evolution of a relationship over time. Now, y'all know that Gordon has the middle grade voice dialed in. He's so good. One of the interesting things about Dexter as a character is because he's lived with senior citizens, he sounds a little bit more like an adult. And that's kind of fun and funny, and he gets to use words and slang and terms that nobody uses anymore, and kids his age are looking at him like he's a crazy person, and as an adult reading that, it's super fun. It also, I think, is a fun way to introduce kids to the way older people speak and maybe make them familiar with some of these older terms. However, it does mean that when he's writing adults, which the one adult point of view character is the counselor, she often sounds like a middle grader. She often sounds more juvenile than she ought to. And in fact, there are a number of times where she, quite frankly, just sounds petty. She holds Ronnie to a different standard than other people. She doesn't try to she's supposed to be a counselor, right? She's supposed to have some kind of psychological background, and yet she has this very interesting, psychologically different kid right in front of her, and she's mostly just worried he's not going to get along with people. She doesn't have a lot of empathy for him. She's not very interested in him as a human being. She can't even put herself in his place and try to help him understand why you can't just go barging into someone's classroom to fix the radiator that's making noise. Rather than trying to help him understand, look, we know how you've lived up until now. This is a whole different world. There are whole different rules. She just gets very embarrassed and apologizes for him and shoos him away. She's not doing her job. And I don't appreciate that. What do we hate? Stupid adults in children's fiction. Is she stupid? No. But she doesn't seem really fleshed out as a character, and she does not behave the way I would expect a school counselor to do. So, to one character, and again, female character there, on Gianna, who's not great. And then we have, so as far as writing girls go, Gordon, I love you. Your writing is excellent. Please stop writing girls. Please just stop. They're not good characters. I don't like them when you write them. They're not nice people to be around. And you seem to think that they should get away with stuff. Now, I don't know if that's the influence of your editors, your publishers, your agent. I have no idea. But for heaven's sake, please just write boys. You're so good at writing boys. Stick to it. It's so good. Please stop writing girls. They're driving me crazy. Moreover, there's one more point of view character, and he is kind of the slick, super smart jock. He's really good with the soccer that he is playing, but he's also a mathlete. He's used to being the guy. His character arc is just into the toilet. It's just him becoming bitter and despondent and hating the world and feeling like the world has done him wrong because he's no longer the superstar at the school. That's it. I don't know where his parents are. I don't, like, if I saw my child behaving this way, becoming surly and despondent and not giving his best effort anymore, because why try if I'm not number one all the time? If you're seeing that as a parent, those are great big old red flags. In fact, in some cases that certain types of abuse have happened, right? That is not a situation that you as a parent are just going to leave alone. So the fact that this character is allowed to just descend into the dumps like this and then have no resolution. He doesn't resolve his broken friendship with Ronnie. He doesn't come to terms with the fact that, yeah, there might be somebody better than you at certain things, and that's okay. He just falls apart. The end. If you cannot properly resolve a character arc, now, caveat here. This might be a jumping point for this character to have their own book and learn some of these lessons that have been set up in this book almost as prequel. If that happens, I will retract a certain percentage of what I am saying here. Not all of it, though, because you can't just leave it that way. That's not good writing. That's not good storytelling. There has to be a sense that maybe there is potential for him to pull out of this, even though he's in a dark place now. But we don't get that. We get none of that. The only character who has a really solid arc, the only two, are Dexter and Ronnie. And quite frankly, I think we could have had just their story without anyone else involved. I think Ronnie's sister being horrible would be just fine. We can make her the antagonist. I would have had no problem with that. But the way this ends really leaves something to be desired. So the story as a whole is fine. The writing, for the most part, top notch. The characters, a tale of two worlds. So overall, I think The Story Serpent gives Old School by Gordon Korman a mostly meh. It's fine. Your kids will probably enjoy it. The humor, the middle grade humor, is on point. They will laugh. They will have a good time. And a lot of times with getting boys to read, that's the big win. So, while it gets a mostly meh, give it to your kids. It'll be fine. Anyway, that's all I have for today. If you've got a story you'd like to see the Serpent take on, feel free to put it in the comments. Until next time, read on, write on, stay sharp.